All right, gang, a lot to unpack here, but worth the unpacking, because this is pretty exciting stuff right here. So the story, it's a great story. So back in July 2021, Brian Otis, who's the owner of Matthews Winery in Washington, a very well-respected producer of Bordeaux-style wines, Cabernet, Sauvignons, etc. He was buddies with a guy by the name of Al Stewart, but not the Year of the Cat Al Stewart. This is the other Al Stewart, but just as famous in the wine world because this Alex Stewart was the winemaker at Kilsita Creek in Washington. Basically, yeah, the greatest winery in Washington, like the Nez Perce Ultra, like the Lafite, Latour, whatever the hell of Washington. And Alex Stewart was the winemaker. And he has two winemaking buddies who also worked at the place, Jesse Schmidt and Hal Iverson. And I guess Brian, I don't know all the details, right? I don't know how it all went down, but it looks like Brian got to talking to Alex and he's like, hey, why don't you come work for me? And they did. You know, this has got to be one of the greatest, I don't know, not a mutiny, almost like you leave one team to another, right? You know, like if Magic had left the Lakers, right, and went to the Pistons or something like that. Can you imagine if that happened? You'd be like, holy crap. What? Ugh. Yes, I guess. Yeah. Maybe the contract was up and highest bidder, I have no idea what happened. But long story short, Matthews Winery, Brian managed to finagle the top winemaking team in Washington to come to him and make wines. Now, a little bit of a problem. He did this deal like in the summer of 2021. So the 2020 was a wine that they did not make. However, we sold a ton of it last year because that was a wine that the boys had blended out. The three of them got together, did the final blends, and created a really good Cabernet from the OK 2020 vintage that we sold for a song. This wine, however, is their first wine, soup to nuts. So this is the former team at Kilsita Creek, working with Matthews Winery, with their vineyard sites, fabulous vineyard sites, to produce their first vintage in a great year of Cabernet Sauvignon. So what the boys do different? Why is this wine going to be any different than the Matthews wine? Doing some reading, they did a lot different. Tons of vineyard work, lowering yields by 30%, more specific in their vineyard sourcing. This bottling, for example, has a lot of that famous Connor Lee vineyard. It's a very famous vineyard in Washington. Connor Lee makes up a chunk of this blend. Picking later. They picked 3 to 6 weeks later than the previous team, and this was with reducing yields 30%. Can you imagine the difference in the grapes when you do that? First of all, you have less grapes and they're hanging longer. You're gonna get intense concentration, intense flavors. In the winery, 25% new French oak, which I think is maybe less than what they used in the past. 75% used, but all French oak. A lot of changes really quick right away to put Matthews into full Kilsita mode. I don't think I'll get sued for that. Wait, anything we're good? Yeah, you can. Okay. Anyway, Kilsita Creek's team at Matthews Winery, first vintage. I get it. You know, I don't know if this wine's any bigger than the previous Matthews bottlings. It's not like you walk in and this wine tastes like Amarone now because this new team took over. This isn't that. You know, Kilsita Creek gained a lot of its reputation based on the finesse and elegance while still supplying this wonderful, rich, silky, slippery style of Cabernet fruit in the mid-palate. They do some of this with Merlot. There's a healthy dollop of Merlot in this wine. I know, I hate Merlot, stop. Merlot in Washington State is like some of the greatest Merlot in the New World, hands down. The Merlot here, rich Merlot, gives the wine that supple, cocoa-y texture without adding weight. The definition is there. But man, this wine is so supple, medium to full-bodied, and it's rich, it's ripe. This wine's packed with dark red fruits. Very different than the previous Matthews regime, which actually didn't suck. Those Matthews wines were good. We sold those wines. Delicious. But what's happening here is next level. The results at Matthews Winery are immediate. This wine is one of the most engaging, fantastic Cabernets from Washington we've had in the last year. Now, Some of you can remember what we sold the 2024 last year, some kind of crazy price, but they really wanted to move on from the old regime, get that wine out of the pipeline and get into the fresh stuff. Now we're into the fresh stuff, and we were scared. We were honestly a little worried because Cedar Creek, all their Cabernets sell for like $250, $300, whatever, right? Incredibly expensive wines, 9,900 points. So we were a little concerned. And that's not to say that that might not happen here someday, but for now, we're getting this wine in this wonderful transitional period where they can't jump the shark immediately, right? They got to kind of ease it up a little bit, right? And that's what they're doing. So this Matthews 2021 Columbia Valley Cabernet Sauvignon comes in under 40 bucks, which considering what's going on here, I mean, that's stealing. It's absolute stealing. Probably will go up in the future. We're ready for it, we expect it. But for now, you get an opportunity to taste a world-class Cabernet Sauvignon from one of the greatest Cabernet Sauvignon winemaking teams on the planet at a bargain price. And yeah, you know, if Magic went to the Pistons, they would have won a few more championships. Sorry, Isaiah Thomas.